Don't know.
Hey, look. Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot to get into here today, a lot of things being discussed, and of course, a lot of things affecting us here in the borderland. And so however you may be tuning in, you're welcome as we continue on with our missions to A, talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland, and B, just have the ability to do so. So if you're on any of those ways, of course, the online social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch are one of the better places to do so, because you can chime in, see the whole show, and comment throughout. And a bunch of the things going on for us today, a whole set of new bills. We're in that part of the aftermath of the original legislative session here in Texas, where Governor Abbott is now signing some of these bills, and a few of them coming through in border security and, I guess, immigration in a way, but really mostly on the border security part, the continued argument that Texas Governor Greg Abbott has been making about Texas's need to step in. And so a couple of those, including a declaration of cartels as terrorists from the state level, and then also some locally based ones, including putting forth compensation funds for agricultural landowners that have any property damage related to particularly crimes committed in this realm. And so we do have some more updates on what's coming out of the State House, including those continued kerfuffles, or at the very least loud disagreements, I would be very willing to say. You'd think it wouldn't be quite this way, but it continues on as we do have the $321 billion state spending plan. It's not just the budget like for this year, because it spans over the next couple, but there's still more to come, and still more issues to be ironed out, as we do have Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes chiming in there. Hello and hola to you all as well, and still appreciate, I'm assuming is the Bitmoji or something like that, Flaco. I wish I could get it up on screen, but still appreciated regardless for what it is there. I do see over there your hello on the phone, appreciate that. And then of course we'll have those phone calls a little bit later in the show, of course, and the immigration and border security situation comprehensively continues to see some shifts and changes, particularly south of the border, but we'll get into some of those local updates as well, including more investigation on the El Paso side of things, spending card usages in general, because we got the gas cards, we got the P cards, which are either purchasing or procurement, depending on who you ask. And that continuing to be a little bit of, investigation being needed. So we'll delve further into that, as there are still, one of the more vociferous defenses coming out recently, at least within Texas, of also the state attorney general, but there's also a whole lot of laws being signed. So we got a lot to delve into, and also a bit tease ahead to this weekend, I guess you could say, about a local hobby, international hobby, but the local focus on it, and the public service aspect that comes along with it as well, reading with the Sun City Amateur Radio Club, teasing ahead to an interview that we'll have the full of on this weekend. So however you're tuning in with us, however you're part of it, you are locked in for the next couple hours at least, just under technically, of talking about the things that affect us right here. And there are, again, quite a lot, because the news never really stops, but some of the interesting things that are coming up here. RJ asking an interesting questions. You get 5 cents off per gallon for procurement. Okay, I have sometimes wondered, because we got a whole fleet of vehicles that we use here, and I'm wondering, could I do something worth the, those umpteen million ads you hear about? Oh yeah, save $100 on gas. And then I both thought about it and got the good advice that it's like asking how much salt water do you want to be boiled with. You don't want to be anywhere involved in that situation. And particularly given the continued focus on that and that aspect of it here, I'm pretty pleased with that decision to not even try to try to go down that route. But of course, again, Governor Greg Abbott, we also have Marky Mandingo. Good afternoon to you as well, and Sean Gardner wishing everyone a good afternoon. Certainly appreciate that, y'all, and y'all tuning in. But again, Governor Greg Abbott touting a bunch of different bills, including his most recent tweet from, let's just call it about 45 minutes ago. Also, Eric Von Holstein Mathlow, good, saying hello, Talk El TEC. Do we change? We're definitely not Talk El Crucis or something like that. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt for a typo there, maybe. But Governor Greg Abbott tweeting about 42 minutes ago, the border security package I signed into law today will strengthen Texas's historic response to President Biden's border crisis. So absolutely still hammering that point home, along some others, announcing like the Texas CHIPS Act, which focuses on semiconductor production, Texas grid issues. His feed is like half him signing bills, which is yeah, it's absolutely the kind of thing that happens during this session. So that, if you want to check out over there, Marky Mandingo on the whole procurement thing saying, yeah, got caught. Want to see the check she has to write. Again, we'll talk about that in just a minute. Talk El Chuco. Okay, that's that. You know what? I'll take it. We get the nicknames and other things. And yeah, we do have a few Las Cruces listeners listening, but that's why we say borderland in general, among other things, when we refer to the coverage area. Anyway, of the bills, some of the ones getting the most focus on, including from some of our national news partners, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signing a series of border security bills. One bill designates drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, which has not been a step that has been taken nationally yet. So I guess the arguable impact of that in terms of like, no, this does not include sending troops south of the border or doing drone strikes, though drones are involved in a way, as I continue noting on. That means higher criminal penalties and adds them to state intelligence databases, because yes, there are still states intelligence sharing, if not exactly gathering. There are, like, say, what's the right way to put it? Partnerships between different, state and local agencies, and sometimes occasionally federal. So there's some of that is probably going to be including on there. But another allows state troopers to train local cops on how to stop smugglers in their communities. So I believe this is separate from, say, the Operation Stone Garden, which did, of course, receive more funding as some of the bills here. I'm not sure if it's part of this current, the package that Governor Abbott mentioned, but it certainly has been a focus. That's the one that allows for grants to essentially have the use of local and regional police forces, particularly like, sheriffs, etc., in service of that border security mission. So the last note I do have here is that the National Guard will also be given the right to use drones to track cartel movement. Now, again, I've said maybe slightly glibly in the past, but still pretty deadly serious about the idea of there being like Afghanistan style drones, or that, the whole Afghanistan Pakistan border. I got no interest in that happening in our region. The idea of armed things going around, just, yeah, there's not a lot that doesn't sit right with me on there. But the idea of tracking it, some of the conversation, of course, going on with that it's almost tit for tat, or that, more accurately, that officials on forces on this side of the border have been behind the power curve, because there's a number of different stories. You search up various estimates of hundreds to thousands of drones having been crossing the border, both for like smuggling purposes, though. Yeah, I mean, there's more cost-effective ways that often get focused on there, because, you're taking over, a pound or two at a time, depending on the size of the drone, if you're using that to smuggle, and definitely not, like, people, so they're getting up in that size. But point is, mostly on the surveillance aspect of cartels onto officials and agencies on this side of the border. So we also have Ida Beza Gardner chiming in with us. Thank you and hello for joining us as well. So one of the interesting ones that, of course, our news partners over at KFOX 14 also specifically commenting on: Governor Abbott signs bill compensating farmers for property damage due to border-related crimes. Specifically, Senate Bill 1133, authored by local state Senator Cesar Blanco, that will establish this grant program under the Office of the Attorney General that makes it so that agricultural landowners may be compensated up to $75,000 for property damage caused by trespassers committing a border crime. So we've heard of some incidents happening in, let's just call them, recent years, of someone going on to agricultural land. We've heard from some farmers, particularly those in, say, the lower and Mission Valley areas previously. You used to have a commentator that would be chiming in particularly from there, but I think he got a little ticked off one day about some Facebook policies that we mentioned, which we don't have control over, but it is what it is. But in any case, I hope he's still in good health out there, wherever he may be, Steve Ivey. But what Blanco had to say about this is that specifically, quote, with increased trafficking and smuggling along the Texas border and in rural communities, ranchers and farmers have reported significant financial losses and property damages to their fences, crops, livestock, equipment, and other property. Specifically in El Paso County in 2017, according to the USDA, 656 farms in our area were reported specifically. So they move into this. This is about $36 million secured from the state budget is what Blanco is quoting, saying, quote, hardworking farmers and ranchers will now have the financial support from the state of Texas to recover from border-related crimes, thinking back delivering food, fiber, and fuel across the state and county. So that's part of it. And of course, there's a whole lot more that is baked into it, including what the local situation and also what's currently percolating through the state legislature. So let's delve into both of those after we take that next break right now. Of course, I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. You are tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. We'll be getting to those phone lines a little bit later, as we usually do. More comments coming in that we'll delve into as well. In any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On the 54 southbound at the state line, an accident involving a couple of vehicles is off to the right. A medical unit's on the scene, but all lanes are open and there's no backup. I-10 eastbound is slow with 15-minute delays from Vinton to the 54 Patriot. Heavy traffic I-10 westbound from Mesa Street up to Vinton with 5-minute delays. And Global Reach is slow with a 10-minute delay southbound from the expressway down to Montana. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Off.
Off Clean Feel, so I can accessorize with studs and not with mosquitoes. I can wear my classic white crop and flag panel jeans and know that I'm covered with 8 hours of not sticky, fragrance-free protection. Get your pre-party protection on with Off Clean Feel. SC Johnson.
Are you suffering from seasonal allergies? Because you're not alone. Experts say pollen season started earlier this year and will last longer, and that folks who've never had issues before are feeling miserable. I'm Martin Hoke, inventor of Navage, the world's only nose cleaner with powered suction. Over 3 million people use Navage to pull saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, helping to flush out allergens, mucus, and germs. Navage helps clear your sinuses quickly and naturally. But what about other people's experiences, like Miss Clement? Quote, I chose Navage because of my persistent allergies. Navage works. While using it, I cut back on allergy meds and occasional shots at my doctor's office. Unquote. That's one of over 120,000 reviews with a 4.6-star average written by people who use Navage to breathe better, snore less, and feel healthier. Stop suffering and try Navage today at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
Hi, I'm Scotty Clark from Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. The heat is back, so get ready, El Paso. It's going to be a long, hot summer. At Scott Heating and Cooling, we're ready to help you maintain and service your home and business HVAC system. We service all major brands of heating and cooling equipment, as well as commercial kitchen equipment and walk-in freezers. With appointments available 7 days a week, make an appointment online or call Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing today at 915-595-4529.
Attorney CPA Joe Cordell.
Divorce forces a father to focus on what's most important, his children. You may no longer be a husband, but you'll always be a dad. In the divorce process, this comes down to 3 key concerns: physical custody, decision-making, as well as financial support. Each of these is important, and it's important that you choose a lawyer that cares as much about these issues as you do.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Dallas-Fort Worth area attorneys. Offices in Dallas, Fort Worth, and St. Louis. CordellCordell.com.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people tuning in, chiming in, adding their 2 cents, and those likes and reacts that we certainly appreciate, including Sean Gardner, Ida Beza Gardner, Marky Mandingo, RJ Promotes, James Holmes, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez. And of the Gardner in our audience, having spoken with them personally, separately on different occasions, I don't believe there's any relation, so correct me if I'm wrong. But other commentary coming in, including a Marky Mandingo saying he likes the show. Appreciate that. And specifically about keeping it local, referencing Paul Strelzin. You know what? When I was in the Don Haskins Center the other day, saw his name and face up on the wall there as part of from the broadcasting side, Sports Hall of Fame here. Given the understanding of what he did and the time I spent in limited years, because, I mean, it was a little bit young, but knowing what he did and what he was about, well, I think he deserves it. Weird personal note. I had him as a substitute teacher one time because after he retired from radio, his family was in education, including at least one of his daughters, and he was as well. And yeah, no one else in the room of my peers at that point in time knew where he was. And I was just thinking, like, seriously? And just to confirm or further some things about his reputation, we were out in a portable out by the back of Franklin High School, and he definitely had I don't remember the color of it. I have it in my mind. It was a lime green convertible, but he definitely, and I can confirm this 100%, the horn played La Cucaracha. So just a little bit about his character there. Anyway, other commentary coming in besides those personal notes, including RJ Promote saying, I got a theory. Why doesn't the Biden administration tell the world the laws are being enforced to slow down the invasion? Referring there to some of the, I guess, in the aftermath of some of the bills being passed here by Texas. So I'm of 2 minds on this. That overcoming the cartel propaganda on this is key, because if you're not dealing with their information, I mean, they're finding willing customers for this kind of thing that they then continue to exploit, sometimes in incredibly egregious ways, based on the idea that now it'll come through. So yeah, full deep-throated, deeply put forth, I guess I should say better, idea of saying no, don't do this is important, but there have been some noticeable impacts, I gotta say, particularly the end of Title 42. And what we saw is according to El Paso, Texas.gov/migrant-crisis and the Migrant Situational Awareness Dashboard, we have continued to see a drop-off in the levels, rising to at about its highest point in our local area anyway, of about 5,500 and a half. So 55, 54, if you want to be very specifically technical about it, the high water mark for the CBP in custody 7-day rolling average, unless which was even bigger than the ones we saw at the end of last year in those waning months of the previous kind of expectation dates around Title 42, and they have dropped off significantly with the currently sitting at about 1,200. So not by any means done, over, cease, kaput, final, but still with significantly lower CBP encounters, the 7-day rolling average at about 400. So, and the releases in this calendar week in the region, about 545. So down to about let's call it a tenth of what it was. So by no means, I mean, there has never been a point in any local numbers that I'm aware of, even either this measuring or previous ones, where there has been no crossings immigration. I mean, the CBP one app, as much as it is as a attempt to try and better manage it, mitigate it to an extent, and that successfulness or not is certainly up for debate, particularly given all the stories that are coming out about the frustration, particularly in the constituent communities dealing with that. I do have to say that there has been a noticeable impact, particularly with the end of that policy, even if there are other things that are going on with this, not in our region, because deployment of this kind of thing would seem almost a little bit silly in our area, at the very least when it comes to international boundaries. Aware of the description of it is a little tricky, but of these rotating barriers that kind of sound like, to me, the lane markers at like your local public pool, the ones of the actual lanes up and down. And Edgar Ortiz asking, joining a bit late, that yes, was just talking about Paul Strelzin. May rest in peace after having caused quite a lot of hubbub in the Sun City for many a year. But so the barriers that are being deployed at least around 1,000 feet in Texas, kind of more down near towards the Eagle Pass area that it kind of sounds like, again, a bigger version of the lane dividers that you see, again, like the public pools for those actually doing like the lap lanes, because it's strung out there and done with high tensile wires, what they say, but then they are rotating to make it so that it's not able to be essentially climbed over or circumvented easily unless you're going entirely around it. That being deployed, again, not in our section, because sure, canals, certainly a thing. We've already had water rescues and unfortunately deaths in our region, and that is also one of the primary concerns, both put forth by state officials and, of course, immigration and border security, immigrant advocates, saying that this could lead to deaths. And though there's other things being discussed with that, doesn't make sense in our area because, sure, while the canals, again, are very deep, those aren't the international boundary. And so if they're already in the canals, they're already inside the U.S., among other things. So, yeah, the different parts of the Rio Grande definitely have different issues and topography with them. And again, the issues in our area do, of course, continue reporting by El Paso Matters, by the Puente News Collaborative. Specifically, migrants set up makeshift camp at Parque El Chamizal in Juarez, noting that there are a lot of different things popping up in the area specifically, and that the majority from Venezuela in this situation staying on the grounds of the Parque El Chamizal near the Cordova Americas International Bridge. And some say that they're trying to go for the CBP-1 app, as mentioned, but that there have been other camps that have been popping up, other things like that. So as much as the end of Title 42 has had some impacts, obviously, on the situations we are seeing on this side of it, it isn't necessarily lessening effectively the impetus to attempt or to try of these kind of things. And again, El Paso Matters, again, through the Puente News Collaborative, does note that Border Patrol has registered an average of 3,400 daily encounters along the U.S.-Mexico border, so not just in our region. And specifically between the ports of entry, and that another 300 who didn't have appointments through CBP-1 app were encountered at ports of entry daily. So, there's all... We got some more stories about Paul Strelzin going on in the comments there. That's I'll have to read out coming into the next segment, absolutely, because he was a legend in his own time in the borderland region. If again, it was just so surreal to have him as a substitute teacher that one time. So as much as there are, again, a slew of bills being signed and continued focus on it by Governor Greg Abbott, there has also been more that has been percolating through. That was one of the two main challenges that the governor gave and created of this special session going on in the Texas legislature, more on border security and also on the property taxes. That kerfuffle does continue. And I guess you could read it two ways, either a gauntlet thrown or a please come back, we've done something nice and that you would like to work on, as Texas Tribune notes that with Texas House adjourned, Senate takes bigger swing at border enforcement and human smuggling. Subtitled here that rather than accept House legislation as it is, Senator passed their own more expansive proposals for border security, but unless the House convenes again, the bills can't go to the governor's desk because I guess in either look, we did our job, let's go home, or listen, you got to deal with it and we're not going to take this back and forth. Again, there's a few different readings depending on how you take the personalities between the governor, lieutenant governor, and specifically the lieutenant governor and the speaker of the House, who certainly have had their moments. So with the Senate passing specifically 3 immigration bills Wednesday, it would create a border police force, make it a state crime to cross the Texas-Mexico border illegally, and raise the minimum punishment for people convicted of smuggling immigrants. And 2 of those specifically not as part of the priority list or what it was specifically passed by the House already. So again, as the Texas Tribune notes that without the House in session to complete the legislative process, Senate chose to take a bigger swing at border-related bills than what the governor requested or what the House passed. And they have little chance of becoming law with the House having adjourned last week, having already passed their own anti-smuggling bill. So that's a few of the things going on and affecting us here in the borderland. And that $321 billion state spending plan, basically the budget for the next 2 years. And now that it has certified, well, we're off to the races there with some of that funding we've already discussed this week. So let's go ahead and take that next break right now. And we'll get into some of those unintentional but welcomed remembrances that were coming out from about Paul Strelzin, because radio in El Paso is certainly a passion of mine. So let's talk about that. And then, of course, get into that brief interview. We got to tease ahead to this weekend, if you will, talking about ham radio and the upcoming field day and, of course, its impact and importance to the borderland. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM phone lines here in just a bit. But in any case, don't go anywhere. We got a lot more to talk about. Stay tuned.
Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. A 71-year-old man who was wanted for indecency with a child and sex abuse of a child has been arrested by local authorities. Robert Maldonado was arrested by El Paso County Sheriff's deputies on Tuesday. Maldonado had 2 criminal warrants for indecency with a child. He was taken into custody without incident in the 12,000 block of Golden Sun Drive in East El Paso County. Texas Governor Greg Abbott today signed into law a bill that will compensate farmers and ranchers for property damage due to border-related crimes, human smuggling, and smuggling crimes. Senate Bill 1133 was authored by State Senator Cesar Blanco of El Paso. It'll establish a grant program under the Office of the Attorney General. Agricultural landowners can be compensated up to $75,000 for property damage caused by trespassers committing a border crime. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
On the 54 southbound of the state line, an accident involving a couple of vehicles is off to the right. A medical unit's on the scene, but all lanes are open and there's no backup. I-10 eastbound is slow with 15-minute delays from Vinton to the 54 Patriot. Heavy traffic I-10 westbound from Mesa Street up to Vinton with 5-minute delays. And Global Reach is slow with a 10-minute delay southbound from the expressway down to Montana. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Looking ahead to our Thursday, partly cloudy skies for tomorrow. A nice start. Lows back down into the 50s and 60s, but it's going to be another hot one for the afternoon tomorrow. High around 92 degrees. As we look ahead to your Friday, partly cloudy, breezy. High around 91 degrees for your Saturday and Sunday. Mostly sunny on Saturday. High around 92 with a high around 95 for your Sunday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Audible. Kickstart your imagination with Audible. Hear celebrity and music memoirs, mysteries, true crime, and more. Audible is the home of storytelling, audiobooks, podcasts, and originals. Sign up for a free trial at audible.com.
It's the Marketer's Report. Today, Capital One's Chief Brand Officer, Mark Mentry, weighs in on building loyalty with customers.
Capital One has really worked to create amazing access moments for our customers. We will do sound check parties that only Capital One cardholders can get access to, and we can't pull that off without iHeart.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to the audiences, insights, and data you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
Shopping for a gift for dad or grad? Get Rosetta Stone for 40% off now through June 18th. Learning a language will expand their horizons and open up new opportunities in career, travel, and more. Choose from Spanish, Italian, Japanese, and over 20 more languages. Rosetta Stone memberships are for life, so your present gets them forever access to language learning tools they can use for years to come. Get it now at rosettastone.com. 40% off ends June 18th.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Off clean feel, so I can accessorize with studs and not with mosquitoes. I can wear my classic white crop and flag panel jeans and know that I'm covered with 8 hours of not sticky, fragrance-free protection. Get your pre-party protection on with Off Clean Feel. SC Johnson.
This report is sponsored by Off.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we're talking about here today. And again, not entirely intention, but not entirely unwelcome either. Some remembrances coming in for people's times seeing and hearing from the Strels. Marky Mandingo saying specifically that Strelson was an amazing announcer. The Diablos games caught him there at least once back in like elementary school. So Pretty sure about that. And he was a very good principal, welcomed all at booing, got the BP out, and love his show like I love this show. Appreciate that. And he was a polarizing person and drove a convertible Mustang. See, I remembered it was convertible, and for some reason in my mind, it's just stuck in that way, and I have no idea if that was true or not. It was like lime green. And Edgar Ortiz mentioning, Paul Strells and Bowie High School principal, first year in school, 1992 to 1993. Great guy and great memories from that red Mustang. There you go. And Eric von Holstein Rathlow saying met him at a gas station worked at back in the 80s, and a personal license plate that read Strells, Strelz. That absolutely sounds like the man. And saying that when he wasn't sure what it meant, and saying, you don't know who I am? I'm Paul Strells, and I'm the mouth of the South. I got to see if I can find a recording of that. I'm sure that exists somewhere in some format, if not online. And then, traveling music and minor ball at the old Memorial Gym. Yeah, good memories from a lot of the stuff that he ended up doing. So that's some of the remembrances. But, of course, there's a lot more going on, a lot of the things happening in the borderland, as much as there are also some local things going on, including the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank, still seeing a lot of demand in the community, and still having those issues stocking the shelves as supplies continue to be tight. That their busiest day in 2022 was Thanksgiving Day, and that they served 1,300 people at that point, and that the food bank now serves 1,500 families daily, and it has only increased in our area. So that's an important one, and so I always end up supporting the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank. But then also in investigation news and things going on there, and city council, those cards used to buy things, whether it be gas or other general procurement, continue to be investigated. And so from our news partners at KFOX 14, noting that a certain El Paso city representative is on track this year and having the highest number of gas purchases out of the entire current city council, specifically referring there to city rep Cassandra Hernandez, according to the audit, having used her car more than anyone else on council so far this year. And usage from January to April discussed at the Financial Oversight and Audit Committee following those audit results that grabbed headlines from 2022, presenting these findings. And so that's continuing to be an issue, having used 500 gallons of gasoline, about $1,600 from January to April. And there was a statement Tuesday night from Hernandez on this that I'll just read briefly here. Quote, "My voluntary repayment demonstrates my commitment to protecting the interests of El Paso taxpayers in the city. It is disappointing that the auditor's report continues to demonstrate flawed auditing practices that fail to follow basic standard auditing procedures, which have been outlined in the May 1st and June 5th, 2023 commercial fuel card review. Moreover, there are political motivations that detract from a fair and objective audit process. Despite these challenges, it is important to emphasize that both the auditor's report and the El Paso Police Department's report have conclusively stated that my use of the fuel card does not violate any of City of El Paso's policies or laws." The statement does go on for a bit longer, so you can see the full thing for yourself over there, including there are troubling implications about distracting El Pasoans from failures of leadership, including the termination of Tommy Gonzalez, of which I will also say there have been some of those, as I affectionately refer to, ankle biters in the community, also among all of them, notably Max Grossman, delving into reports and the reporting going on this, including the P cars, which we're having some disagreement in the office earlier. Was it purchasing or procurement? Either way, the ones that are issued to certain staff about current and former city reps. The current ones being the subject of things like the against Cassandra Hernandez, the ethics complaints that have been filed, but beyond that, also former ones potentially being investigated, particularly when it comes to then those money and potentially thousands of dollars being spent at local stores and things like that, including from, former staff or staff for the former city manager or soon-to-be former city manager, whereas we have the interim has now taken his position as well. So there's probably a lot more, no pun intended, gas in that tank. So over the investigation, so we'll keep up on that one. One fun thing I do want to mention is that Edward James Olmos is going to be in El Paso, one of the guests for the Plaza Classic Film Festival, put on, of course, by the El Paso Community Foundation. So very excited about that one. And then also on a, I guess, slightly lighter note, I was able to speak a little bit earlier this week with the Sun City Amateur Radio Club, also known as Ham Radio Operators, about their upcoming field day. So kind of a tease towards the interviews that we'll be having on for you this weekend briefly. Here is that interview. Joining me now, we have Sean Gardner, treasurer for the Sun City Amateur Radio Club. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Andrew, and good day.
Thank you for coming on with us to talk about this because obviously we are a radio station. We talk about and do things in the space of radio, and y'all do similar things, at the very least when it comes to the type of technology we're talking about, the broadcasting through those invisible waves that go through the air to have information go many places, including around the world. And you all got some interesting events coming up, right?
That is correct. We have coming up on the 24th, 25th of June is what's called Amateur Radio Field Day. And it's an event that runs for 24 hours, starts noon on Saturday the 24th and runs all the way through till noon on Sunday the 25th.
So it's a 24-hour event across 2 days.
Correct. So, and we'll do some startup where we'll set up some extra antennas or extra equipment on the morning of, usually around 7-8 o'clock in the morning at the clubhouse. That's where we're going to be running field day this year, is at the clubhouse, and up in Northeast El Paso. And
so we're on Wickham Avenue, right?
Yeah, I believe it's 3709 Wickham. And so we'll be doing a little bit of setup there that morning, and then at noon, we go under emergency power. So that's the whole goal of field day. It's kind of it's almost like a grid down practice event.
So something were to be happening, going on, and the kind of situation where you would really want to have this type of communication, this type of service. And I mean, you all practice for this in different ways, in more continuing ways, but field day is kind of that, once a year real focus on it, regardless of what you're involved in, right?
Correct. And so it's one of those that, like I said, you do the setup that morning, and then once everything is set up and you're tested out and everything else, then you pull the plug on the grid. And like, for example, we, everybody's got a big push for solar. We've been operating the club.
Oh, sure.
Been operating the club for probably better part of 30 years with some form of solar influence. And at this point, all the radios in the club, basically, that are there day to day, those radios are all operated off of solar power every day. So, but for field day, we'll continue that, but we'll add an additional radio or two.
Sure.
And those may be running off of some sort of a small generator outside.
Sure.
Once again, grid down situation.
Because you all are both practice, both working at the kinks of, what if something were to happen? What if there were to be some disaster, emergency, etc., in which you are needing to use this kind of what's increasingly considered like a backup form of communication, but has a lot of very great importance on its own in the day-to-day life here. So to take one step back, besides, of course, the event that you all got coming up that happens, again, internationally as well,
yes,
and across the country, is that, what is amateur radio? I think there's a lot of, things ideas might have in mind, but I mean, there's amateur radio and ham radio are two concepts that are, of course, very similar, but may not be totally connected in some people's minds.
Right. Well, and in all reality, amateur radio and ham radio, they are one and the same. Okay. They absolutely are one and the same, but it's just ham has become the nickname.
Sure.
Okay. The official is amateur radio. Ham is the nickname. But that being said, it is a worldwide communication form, and we do it through all sorts of different bands of frequencies, everything from what they call HF or high frequency, which would be along, a lot of people are familiar with like the shortwave bands or old shortwave radio.
Sure.
That's basically the HF section, is all the shortwave area. And it runs from, I want to say it's from 3 megahertz through 30 megahertz is what's considered shortwave or HF.
Referring there to the actual electromagnetic spectrum parts that y'all are using.
Correct. And like I said, that's that part of the spectrum. And those communications can go worldwide. And they're very, very, very subject to solar weather.
Yeah, sure.
So we have to keep up on solar weather also, to determine whether we're going to have a good day on the radio or a bad day on the radio, and how to better circumvent that, what frequencies we're going to have to change to use, and so on and so forth.
Again, that's Sean Gardner, treasurer for the Sun City Amateur Radio Club. And again, that full interview will be airing this weekend on the El Paso Public Forum, which airs 7 a.m. on all of our local iHeartRadio stations, including right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. So a little bit of a tease ahead to that. Some other commenting coming in, including calling for a Big 10-4 for CB radio. Slightly different citizen band, but again, we'll have that full details. And again, you can check it out for yourself with their upcoming field day again towards the end of this month, the 24th and the 25th. So taking that next break right now, and we'll go ahead and open up those phone lines for you. And of course, that number to call if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents that way is 915-544-5876, 915-544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. A 71-year-old man who was wanted for indecency with a child and sex abuse of a child has been arrested by local authorities. Robert Maldonado was arrested by El Paso County Sheriff's deputies on Tuesday. Maldonado had 2 criminal warrants for indecency with a child. He was taken into custody without incident in the 12,000 block of Golden Sun Drive in East El Paso County. Texas Governor Greg Abbott today signed into law a bill that will compensate farmers and ranchers for property damage due to border-related crimes, human smuggling, and smuggling crimes. Senate Bill 1133 was authored by State Senator Cesar Blanco of El Paso. It'll establish a grant program under the Office of the Attorney General. Agricultural landowners can be compensated up to $75,000 for property damage caused by trespassers committing a border crime. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Another crash on the I-10 eastbound at Reynolds is slowing traffic. That crash is blocking the left lane and left shoulder. El Paso PD is on the scene. 54 south at the state line, an accident that's off to the right. I-10 eastbound Vinton to the Patriot is slow, 20-minute delays and 10-minute delays on Paisano Drive southbound from downtown to Washington Avenue. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Audible. Kickstart your imagination with Audible. Hear celebrity and music memoirs, mysteries, true crime, and more. Audible is the home of storytelling, audiobooks, podcasts, and originals. Sign up for a free trial at audible.com.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. This ad is paid for by the settlement specialists. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is one of the most common cancers in the United States. If you or a loved one was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and were regularly exposed to Roundup weed killer, you could be entitled to cash compensation. Bayer, the owner of Roundup, will pay more than $10 billion to cancer victims of weed killer Roundup. Call our weed killer cancer hotline now to see if you're entitled to cash compensation. Roundup has been one of the most commonly used herbicides in the U.S. If you or someone you love has been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and were exposed to Roundup, call now. Our team is here to fight for everyday people and to get you the compensation you may deserve. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and were regularly exposed to Roundup weed killer, even if the loved one has passed away, call 800-778-9713 now to see if you are entitled to compensation. But hurry. Time is limited. Call 800-778-9713. 800-778-9713.
Want a $100 shopping spree on the latest fashion, home goods, or beauty products? Just download the Temu app and enter promo code iHeartTemu in the search bar and get started. That's TEMU. Get a $100 coupon bundle just by downloading the Temu app and using promo code iHeartTemu.
Paid for by government.com. Can you believe it? A huge hoard of 2018 American Eagle silver dollar coins were confiscated when the FBI busted an international fraud ring that stretched from South Dakota to Norway. It sounds like a Hollywood movie, but it's not. These 99.9% pure silver 2018 Silver Eagles, recovered from U.S. mint-sealed boxes concealed in a garage in Norway, are now available and can be yours. Your guaranteed mint condition American Eagle silver dollars, seized from the Norway hoard. Quantities are extremely limited. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9714. Plus, you'll receive a free bonus package, a $25 value, free with every order. Don't let this incredible opportunity slip away. Call 1-800-973-9714 now to secure your American Silver Eagles from the seized Norway horde before they're gone. That's 1-800-973-9714.
Off clean feel, so I can accessorize with studs and not with mosquitoes. I can wear my classic white crop and flag panel jeans and know that I'm covered with 8 hours of not sticky, fragrance-free protection. Get your pre-party protection on with Off Clean Feel. SC Johnson.
The Good Feet Store, improving people's lives 2 feet at a time.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages like Manda Mancanda, very aptly and good timing on that one, demonstrating there over on the Twitch stream. So yeah, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. And other comments coming in like Willie and Jenkins, finding at least that part of the interview. Again, the tease ahead to this weekend, calling it interesting. And the full comment there from Eric von Holstein-Rathlow saying that when stuff hits the fan, I'll say it that way for this, a ham radio would come in handy. Let's get a CB radio. Can I get a Big 10 for it? Let me do my best. Big 10-4, good buddy. I don't know if that works or not. But actually, what I'd recommend, particularly if you don't have your ham radio license, it is a licensed thing, and you get to... there are, again, things that we go further into the interview about keeping it useful, secure, and not full of spam. Actually, what I'd recommend people is get as a weather radio, an AM, FM, short band weather radio, because you can hear a lot of those things, but not get yourself mucked up with any legalities and, well, was enough of an emergency or not. So, I mean, I'll need to take the test myself one of these days. But in the meantime, that's what I have. I'll just put it that way. And Clark with the Roger there. Let us know how that worked out for you in figuring out your voting situation, by the way, if you gotten a chance. Would love to know if they figured out that you're still part of District 6, or at the very least that you've been able to ask for that provisional ballot. Anyway, but do have those calls on line if you want to chime in with us that way. Of course, 915-544-5876, for KTSM and Flacco Jimenez. I'm not even sure I want to know the implications of you don't want to say good buddy, because they'll know you've only seen it in movies. Yeah, I'm sure. And yeah, CB Radio's first social network. I mean, the whole citizen band part of it is, well, before there was the internet, connecting somehow. Anyway, let's get to those phone lines now. We do have Jerry in Northwest on the line with us here right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us. Jerry, you there? Think we might have lost Jerry. Okay, we'll check back with Jerry here in a minute. But again, if you want to get on that line with us, seems like something didn't connect, right? Yep. Okay. We'll try that again here, probably after we check the wires here on this break. But so Jerry, if you're there, you can hear us. Stay there. We'll try again here in just a minute, because picked up fine when we got you coming in during the break. But again, if you want to call in, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. I will say that, of course, the exciting news, because I always look forward to the Plaza Classic Film Festival as it ends up coming towards, each and every year. I'm not going to 100% confirm nor deny that I may have played hooky from a job, just go and see something down there that I was really wanting to see on that, grand old vaudeville style stage and screen. But specifically, again, Edward James Olmos is going to be here, interviewed before two of his signature films, Stand and Deliver and The Ballad of Gregorio Cortez. And that coming up end of not this month, but next month. So that'll be July 28th and 29th, those films anyway, on the Plaza Classic Film Festival. And okay, Ed Clore giving us that update. Appreciate that, saying they're mailing me a new card, even though the one I have isn't expired until December. They still didn't explain the 6E. Yeah, that is weird, because you're still parts of District 6. Anyway, this is exactly what provisional ballots are for, saying, okay, I understand that your records don't indicate, but everything I can prove shows it. So just to make sure you're able to cast your ballot, because who knows, in this race, you might be able to make a difference in this here. And by the way, I did bring in that other mailer that I ended up receiving. And I was right that this one definitely has some, let's just call it interesting language on it. The voter alert, should your tax dollars be used to push a as it says here. Radical MAGA Republican agendas. Valerie Gagnon-Bills thinks so. So very much in favor of Jacqueline Martinez as it goes through this. And where I was wrong was on the party in favor, or what was being put forth on this. Specifically, the previous one I mentioned yesterday that was in favor of Jacqueline Martinez was from the Texas State Teachers Association. This one actually paid for by the El Paso County Democratic Party. And before anyone comes out and says, hey, isn't that cheating? I mean, they do specifically mention themselves here. I'll just read what the mailer says. We fought too hard to let radical Republicans enact their agenda in our schools. Jacqueline Martinez is the only Democrat in the EPISD District 6 runoff, and then goes through her qualifications, the veteran teacher, and her platform part of it. And so she is still not running as a Democrat. This is a nonpartisan race, but I know where a lot of people end up being like, oh, that's cheating. They're mentioning politics. Nonpartisan doesn't mean that, well, certain parties or networks of donors, voters, etc., can't advocate on her behalf. And so arguably that's what's happening here. Basically, that's the way it works most places besides El Paso, though I'm sure we'll get someone either in the comments or riled up about that. So we'll still be happy to talk about it. So let's go ahead and take that break now. We'll see what's going on in the back with the monkeys and the wrenches and the monkey wrenches, and get back to those phone calls. So again, if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents. That number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound, an earlier accident approaching the Paisano-Chelsea exit is off to the right. All lanes are back open. I-10 eastbound between Vinton and the Patriot, it's a 25-minute delay. Slow traffic with delays eastbound on Paisano Drive from downtown South Santa Fe to Washington, 10-minute delays. And a big closure tonight. I-10 eastbound is going to close completely at 9 o'clock at Trowbridge for road work. Harry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
No, not now. That sounds like it's going to cost you.
I know what to do. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, I could have the money in my account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
Car crimes are on the rise. Protect yourself and your valuables this holiday season. When you park your car, always lock it down. Never leave keys in your vehicle. Never leave your windows down. Don't leave your valuables in plain sight, or you might return to a terrible sight. Try to park in well-lit areas. And most importantly, always lock it down. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority. Learn more at LockItDownTX.com.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station.
This is the iHeartRadio Sports Report.
In the NBA Finals, Nikola Jokic became the first player to ever have a 30-20-10 game in Finals history, and the Denver Nuggets took Game 3 in Miami, 109-94. Jamal Murray also had a triple-double. In fact, Jokic and Murray became the first teammates in NBA Finals history to both record triple-doubles in the same game. Game 4 is tomorrow night in Miami at 8:30 Eastern on ABC. Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals is tonight. Florida is hoping to use home ice to avoid going down 3-0 to Vegas. Catch it tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on TNT. And Lionel Messi, coming to Major League Soccer and Inter Miami, has already sent the secondary market ticket prices through the roof. Prices for the next few matches in Miami start at around $50, but for the July 12th game, when Inter hosts Liga Mexico's Cruz Azul, and people think that's when Messi may play, the price is now starting at $495. I'm Andy West with your iHeartRadio Sports Report.
Need more? Open the free iHeartRadio app for the best sports stations in the country and the most sports podcasts with the biggest personalities in the game on demand.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. People in the Northeast could get some relief from smoky conditions tonight. Forecasters say the wildfire smoke blanketing the Northeast may start lifting before the end of the day. It's a relief to many travelers as it's caused issues at airports in the region. The FAA says smoke causes more delays than fog or rain because of the advanced navigation systems they use.
These systems work well through water droplets, but can be less effective through solid particles such as smoke and ash.
The FAA says air traffic controllers use additional safety measures during smoky conditions, including having greater distances between arriving and departing aircraft. An FBI official says the agent who testified for Republicans was suspended by the Bureau for leaking sensitive information to a right-wing group. House Democrats now accuse Garrett O'Boyle of lying to the committee and are referring the issue to the Attorney General. Lawmakers found out about the suspension in testimony from the Executive Assistant Director of the FBI for Human Resources to the House Judiciary Committee. Survivors of the partially collapsed apartment building in Davenport, Iowa, are getting assistance.
They'll have access to up to $600,000 in emergency funds from the city. It comes as the city of Davenport's facing 3 different lawsuits accusing the city of negligence. Governor Kim Reynolds is asking President Biden for federal assistance for debris removal and demolition, as well as reimbursement for actions taken during the response. The apartment building partially collapsed on May 28th, killing 3 people. I'm Cooper Banks.
Mortgage rates are dropping for the first time in 3 weeks. The 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is averaging 6.71% and is down from 6.79% from the week before. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. More witnesses take the stand in day 2 of the Parkland School Resource Officer trial. Defense attorney Mark Eiglarsh is questioning Coral Springs Police Sergeant Jeffrey Heinrich about the confusion over what was actually happening when they first heard shots on the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas campus.
So you hear those shots and you don't have a specific location of where those shots are coming from, correct?
No.
You can't say, 1200 building.
No,
correct?
absolutely not.
1300 building.
No.
Scott Peterson is accused of taking cover during the Parkland massacre. He faces 7 counts of child neglect, 3 counts of culpable negligence, and 1 count of perjury. A child was taken to a hospital after being bitten by a rattlesnake on a hiking trail in Mount Diablo State Park in Walnut Creek, California, Wednesday afternoon. A park ranger told NBC Bay Area that the 7-year-old boy was walking through grass when he felt the bite on his lower leg. His mom carried him back to the parking lot where rangers stabilized the boy to keep the venom from spreading throughout his body. He was airlifted to the hospital and is expected to be okay. Another big music festival is just a few months away. Liz Warner has the details.
It's times like these you give and give and give.
Lineups announced for the 2023 iHeartRadio Festival in September. It's slated for September 22nd and 23rd at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Performers on the first night include Sheryl Crow and Lenny Kravitz. Headlining the second night are the Foo Fighters. A 48-hour pre-sale for Capital One cardholders begins June 14th. Tickets go on sale on the 16th.
A team of Southern California researchers made a major milestone this week. For the first time ever, power was transmitted wirelessly through space and detected at a precise location on Earth. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance at a trip to our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Text the nationwide keyword Vegas to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's Vegas to 200-200.
This September, our iHeartRadio Music Festival is coming back to Las Vegas.
September 22nd and 23rd at T-Mobile Arena.
Streaming live only on Hulu. Tickets go on sale Friday, June 16th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. But starting Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, Capital One cardholders can score tickets and other awesome experiences before anyone else for 48 hours only or while pre-sale tickets last.
Visit iHeartRadio.com/Capital One for more pre-sale details.
What's in your wallet?
This report is sponsored by Off.
Off Clean Feel, so I can accessorize with studs and not with mosquitoes. I can wear my classic white crop and flag panel jeans and know that I'm covered with 8 hours of not sticky, fragrance-free protection. Get your pre-party protection on with Off Clean Feel. SC Johnson.
Hi, I'm Scotty Clark from Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. The heat is back, so get ready, El Paso. It's going to be a long, hot summer. At Scott Heating and Cooling, we're ready to help you maintain and service your home and business HVAC system. We service all major brands of heating and cooling equipment, as well as commercial kitchen equipment and walk-in freezers. With appointments available 7 days a week, make an appointment online or call Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing today at 915-595-4529.
Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all of your favorite radio stations.
Rover's Morning Glory.
It's The Woody Show.
It's Elliot in the morning.
All of the once-in-a-lifetime events. iHeartRadio Music Festival. All of the best free curated playlists. It's everything that rocks. All of the great podcasts for every interest.
This is Freddie Prinze Jr. from the Wrestling with Freddie podcast.
All of the mind-blowing contests. $20,000. Awesome. All of your favorite superstars.
This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters.
Best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Some talk about other events going on, including a Willie Jenkins saying they should bring back music under the stars. That was at Chamizal, if I'm not mistaken, right? Never actually got to go myself. Well, like as an attendee, I think I was working there or doing news coverage at various points in time. But Ed Core mentioning a few other types of music, entertainment things, Cool Canyon nights, State Line concerts, Alfresco Fridays. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going around. And I got to say, people still seem practically ravenous to get out and do things. There's not been much of a parking lot around me recently that business I've been going to, other things I've been checking out that has not been just jammed packed. So definitely seems that there is that desire to get out and do stuff, continuing it on. Yeah, not already just saying that. Yeah, it was you missed out. It was pretty cool. So maybe one of these days. I know that there's a lot of stuff going on at the Chamizal rededication. So maybe before too long. Anyway, let's get back to those phone lines now. Confirm they are working now. So if you want to get on that line, that number to do so, open and available now. 915-544-5876. 915-544-KTSM. A quick note, Monica Cervantes saying they are bringing back music in the park in Las Cruces this summer. Never went to that one either. So maybe got a chock full of stuff that we got to be working on here. So let's get to those phone lines now. We do now have, I am pretty certain, Jerry and Northwest here. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Thank you for your patience there. What's on your mind?
Okay. Well, this is not a Verizon commercial. All right.
Yeah, back in the day.
I want to discuss. Well, first off, I have a question. That MAGA agenda that the Democrats are discussing, saying that we should not promote. Does that include our agenda for reading, writing, arithmetic, and real history, not just one opinion's history like 1619 Project, but the actual history of the United States and such?
So we're just going off a mailer here for it. So what they're quoting on this, again, the one that is paid for by the El Paso County Democratic Party, referring to Valerie Ganelon Beals, is that Valerie is proudly endorsed by Unite Texas, a radical Republican org who wants you to, quote, go red state by state. So that's their major point being made. The kind of, I guess, tagline they use on this is save our schools, save our kids. Without your vote, radical right-wing politics could be the future of EPISD. So if that's all the context we're getting from that particular mailer. On the other one, the one that we discussed yesterday, the one that was paid for by the Texas State Teachers Association in favor of, Jacqueline Martinez, talking about lack of involvement and referring to Valerie Ganelon Beals here, reporting lack of involvement on Versailles in El Paso for 5 years, no evidence of voting in school board elections. About the only one that really says anything of context getting towards what you're talking about there is saying her campaign is funded by a political action committee spearheaded by millionaires with long record of promoting private school vouchers. So And again, that's from a different mailer, but I guess in the same vein of attacks on record and qualifications of Beals versus Martinez. So that's the closest we're getting to, I guess, the context you're looking for.
Well, I just want them to define right-wing, extremism first off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's not the reason why I called.
Fair enough.
I called because I want to do some clarifications on a subject that we've been discussing all week, which happens to be the health care for children that may be trying to transition from heterosexual to homosexual and stuff like that.
Okay.
People can look this up. It's under House Bill number 1686. Okay, and it's a bill to entitle an act. Correction. I should have cleaned my glasses before I started reading. And one of the things it says here, a couple of things that it says here, is a child health care plan may not provide coverage for services prohibited by Section 161.702 that are intended to transition a child's biological sex as determined by the child's sex organs.
Chromosomes and endogenous profiles. I think I found the one you're talking about there.
Right. Now you go down to 16107 that correction 702 that it prohibits. And there's a list of things that they have there that they don't want to happen. And then you go down further. Let me read you some of those that they don't want to happen. Castration, vasectomy. Okay, that's
hysterectomy, I believe.
Yeah, hysterectomy. Dang, I should have cleaned my glasses. Okay, and then it has there's 4 or 5 more down there. And then there's in section 161703, it has the exceptions. And these are the exceptions that it deals with. Does not apply to provisions by a physician or healthcare provider with the consent of the child's parent or legal guardian of a prohibited puberty suppression or blocking prescriptions drugs for the purpose of normalizing puberty for the minor experiencing
precocious puberty, I think is what it says.
Precocious puberty. In other words, somebody that is not normal, and they have a list of them. Some of them are the X and X chromosomes and X and Y chromosomes, and it goes on further. But basically, this bill is keeping public money, my tax money, your tax money, from treating children that do not necessarily need it because they are not born with problems, that just want to remove their sex organs because they think they are the opposite sex. They have a psychosis and they think they're the opposite sex.
So
that's what this deals with.
So reading through it and seeing the sections that you're specifically referring to there, I will say that it's more. I mean, it certainly mentions the perform a surgery that sterilizes the child, including what you mentioned: castration, vasectomy, hysterectomy, and a few different ones, including plasties, which is the creation of something, and of sex organs is what it's referring to here. Though also does have it as performing a mastectomy, which would not be the part that would cause sterilization, but it also lists that part of it. I will say that it also does say specifically under the puberty suppression or puberty blocking before the exceptions that you mentioned there, that perform, prescribe, administer, or dispense any of the following prescription drugs that induce transient or permanent infertility, except for, again, those other ones. And again, mentioning those, I will say that your public money focus, I get that entirely, but this would be, I think, any child health plans offered within the state of Texas, because the part at the start there and about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th line, the child health plan may not provide coverage for services prohibited by those sections that we were just listing. So it wouldn't just be public money, it would be any money going towards that from, at the very least, child health plan.
It doesn't say anything about private money. If the individual family wants to do that and they want to pay for it by themselves, It doesn't say they cannot do that. But what it does say is that a physician can lose their license if they do provide that.
And
or a pharmacist can lose his license if he prescribes certain drugs that block puberty and such like that.
And I will say that does say a little bit further down, prohibited use of public money, prohibited state health plan reimbursement. So it certainly does draw those lines as well, though I would say it goes further into private health plans, that the health plans are not able to do this either, and medical assistance programs as well. So still public money being discussed there.
Right. It's not if they want to pay for it out of their pocket, that's their business. But it does state on this, and I just wanted to clarify a lot of this stuff because there's a lot of people out there saying, "Oh, what about this and what about that?" If they'll go read the bill, maybe they'll have more knowledge on it and not just bring stuff out of the clear blue sky that they think is right.
Fair enough. Knowing what is actually going through and being passed on these things is certainly important and a basis for the discussion on this.
Yes, sir. So again, that's Health Bill 1686. House Bill 1686.
Yes, correct.
So they can look it up if they want to. If your audience can look it up if they want to get the full version of what it says, and not take my word for it or not take anybody else's word for it. Read it for yourself.
Yeah, and looking at I've just got the text of it here. I'll have to double check. I do believe this is the one that it did passed. It did pass, and so I don't know if it's been signed just yet. Again, we're in the whole slew session of it, so I'll have to double check that one here. Probably have to retake this first break right now.
I'm pretty sure that's the one that Governor Abbott signed.
Okay, I'll have to double check that, but yeah, we'll check that here in just a second.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure thing.
Thank you, my call.
Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate and your bit of patience with the process here today. Do appreciate it. All right, with that, let's go ahead and take that break. Give me a chance to do some quick research on the specific part of this because it technically now counts as a prior session legislation because we're in the special session, but other things are coming forth. So let's go ahead and take that break. Coming after this break, we'll, of course, take more of those calls, more of those comments, more of everything we do on the line here. So if you want to get on that line, get your 2 cents that way. That number to do so is 915-544-5876 is open and available now. I will add 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Slow traffic still on the I-10 eastbound between Trans Mountain and the Patriot this afternoon. It's a 10-minute delay. A crash reported Gateway West at Yarborough. El Paso police on scene of a crash westbound Montana at Rich Beam. And there's an accident towards UTEP at Oregon Street, north of University at Kirby. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Off.
Off Clean Feel, so I can accessorize with studs and not with mosquitoes. I can wear my classic white crop and flag panel jeans and know that I'm covered with 8 hours of not sticky, fragrance-free protection. Get your pre-party protection on with Off Clean Feel. SC Johnson.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Haley, quote, Navage is the best thing I bought. I love it. My nose feels so clear now and I can breathe. I've been struggling with a stuffy nose for weeks. I bought Navage and it's amazing. Or this one. I use Navage every night, could not imagine life without it. I have 5 cats, and before I found Navage, I was a clogged mess. Now I breathe so much better, unquote. Those are 2 of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the 4-day super sale, June 9th through the 12th, and get 40% off paints and stains with prices starting at $26.69. That means 40% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 40% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Your home is the place where you know your loved ones are secure. But the things that keep your home protected can't keep pests at bay. That's where RAID comes in. For 60 years, RAID scientists have worked to protect people around the world with trusted research, ingredients, testing standards, and product efficacy. RAID seeks to create a better future for all, especially the ones you love most. RAID, protection for all.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day.
I don't watch television, so I get all my news from you.
News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of conversations going on, a lot of people tuning in, chiming in, including dropping those Lipes and Reacts like Richard Janicek, Jennifer Favor Howell, Sean Gardner, Ida Beza Gardner, Marky Mandingo, RJ Promotes, James Holmes, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez. Do appreciate all that as we continue to keep talking about the things that affect us here in the borderland, if we're getting into some very specific subjects here. So following up on what I said I'd look at briefly on from the previous caller, that HB 1686. Reason I wasn't familiar with as much as that one is that it was substituted favorably from the authors for the SB 14. That's the one I've been hearing this under, and that one is functionally identical, except for, at least from my quick, actually, like line by line looking over it, there is a couple other sections added to the exemptions, such as basically adding in that this does not apply to anyone who was part of a continuing drug treatment that the child began before June 1st of 2023, so that date having already passed, and that they attended 12 or more sessions of mental health counseling or psychotherapy during a period of at least the last 6 months before the date of the course of treatment prescribed by that began. And that's also the section that includes, we have at least previously mentioned, that those currently undergoing it shall be, quote, weaned off prescription drug over a period of time in a manner that is safe and medically appropriate that minimizes the risk of complications. So that's kind of and there's at least one more line there that is added part of this. So that's the one that actually ended up passing and was then signed by Governor Greg Abbott, according to capital.texas.gov, as of the 2nd of this month. So June 2nd, and will take effect in September of this month, 9/1/2023. So that's a little bit more of the background there. But of course, we got a lot of the stuff we're talking about, a lot of the comments coming in. James Radcliffe saying anyone under 24 should not have access to gender transitioning surgery. Any politician, establishment, or doctor pushing that should face prison. And yet, you got to dig in a position on that. But again, I start to have misgivings any sort of time we start talking about impacting the rights, abilities to do, frankly, whatever the hell they want that is not going to impact someone else in their own lives. Like, I'm not saying that this is an action that I would necessarily support, but just saying, I mean, not sure if Willie Jenkins is agreeing with me there or not, but about slippery slope, just saying you're going well beyond the age of majority there. This law and bill specifically addresses those under 18 and children's health plans for that. And again, there's a lot to be considered there, but I will say that once you start getting well beyond that and into what's like full-fledged, as we have decided in the society, adults are, what they can or cannot do without some real overriding reasons, well, they'd better be some damn good reasons, all I'm saying. So let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Eric on the east side here with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Hello there. I misspoke 2 days ago when discussing Greg Abbott's suicide-causing law he signed last Friday, the one you were discussing.
Sure.
I wanted to correct that real quick. The the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, the Endocrine Society, the American Medical Association, and the American Psychological Association, and the American Psychiatric Association have all came out in support of gender-affirming care for minors, deeming it medically necessary. You know, these are the leading medical organizations in the country, and this is why they all oppose policies like the one Greg Abbott signed into law that denies parents the right to provide their children with the health care their pediatricians and doctors recommend. You know, they deem it medically necessary because there's enough data to say that if these children do not get the gender-affirming care, they will experience so much mental anguish, many of them will end up killing themselves. I had misspoke saying that these medical organizations support Greg Abbott's suicide-causing policy, you know, when that clearly isn't the case. You know, when I was discussing it, the context, I'm sure it was probably communicated properly, but you know, these leading medical organizations, they're motivated by the current available research, not some secret left-wing conspiracy to kill and ruin children, which is truly a delusional conspiracy theory to believe. Like, to believe that thousands and thousands of researchers, medical professionals, and academics are all involved in such a nefarious plot just clearly defies common sense and can only be described as pure delusion, like that QAnon nonsense a lot of your followers believe. And mainstream right-wing information sources promote this Alex Jones-like narrative, nonetheless, for partisan reasons, at the expense of the well-being of children, you know, just misrepresenting the medical community's views, which they're all on the same page, you know, with these really, really ridiculous conspiracy theories. And when we last discussed this, you know, you repeated your position. You know, I'm glad, so I don't really have to that much, but I'll do it anyway for sake of clarity. You know, when we last discussed this the other day, you said I didn't hear what you were saying because I just wanted to disagree with you on a point when that wasn't the case. Like, you communicated that mental health support is critical for these children. Mental health care should be primary for this, and that mental health care for this population is important. So you are expressing support for mental health care for these children in your eyes, sure, but at the same time, you vocally oppose the mental health care community's views on treatment for those with gender dysphoria who are not the age of majority, treatment deemed medically necessary by the leading mental health organizations in adolescent and adult mental health care. Like, for example, you know, just so you could have a more clear understanding of what I'm communicating, the significance, like conservatives will be told that 40% of trans people attempt suicide, then they'll tell you that they support mental health care for them, you know, like you just expressed. But when mental health professionals outline a treatment plan, you know, for their gender dysphoria, which involves gender affirming care, you oppose it like you did just now. And, you know, as I just read back to you, you know, so you can't say you support providing them with mental health care.
Okay, let's take a step back here, because even if you are attempting to understand my words here, I think you're making some assumptions, because to my understanding, there is no course of treatment that, even if you support these kind of things, that does not begin with mental health counseling or care. I don't think that any doctor, I mean, again, I'm not in this realm of practice, I'm not a doctor myself here, but that anyone would be saying, all right, let's just get this started here, without there being, I mean, if someone is experiencing mental health impacts, that would be the first step. Would that be accurate to your understanding of this?
That's of course, that's always the first step. But when these mental health professionals, their treatment plan involves the diagnosis of gender dysphoria and a treatment plan for that gender dysphoria, which involves puberty blockers. Of course, I've communicated this already many times, that there's a lot of therapy and psychiatry involved before that diagnosis of gender dysphoria is made, which is the first step to the treatment plans prescribed by mental health professionals, which you oppose which is the puberty blockers and hormones, and then in the extremely rare cases, which happen very, very little, very not often at all, the surgeries.
And see, that's the part where we're actually closer in agreement than, again, I think you're willing to admit here, because I mean, yeah, the surgeries, I have a real tough time with that one for anyone who is, again, below what our society has determined is the day and age in which you are able to make adult decisions for yourself. Yeah, and I think some of the previous comments about mentioning 25, I mean, brain still develops until you're 24, reaching social and emotional maturity, all those kind of things. Yeah, there are those considerations, but we have a society to determine that for most things, or at least it used to be for most things, 18 is the day, at the very least, when you're able to start voting and exercising most rights. I mean, we've seen even recent years some of that change, like the age of smoking now is 21 overall, which is one of those things they'll probably have as a, wait, can't you smoke now to the younger generation? And that'll date me, among other things. But I mean, yeah, so I definitely have misgivings about that aspect of it based on also and our societal implications. But when it comes to the idea of changing even like other courses of treatment beyond before we get to like major life altering surgeries, I mean, the bill itself explicitly says that it's talking about these things that induce transient or permanent infertility. And of course, I mean, I would have, as any law that is unspecific, I have issues with. This one does specifically list in A, B, and C. Doses testosterone, puberty suppression, or doses of estrogen to their counterparts in gender. And so just the even transient or permanent, I mean, if it wasn't specifically dealing with those, I would be having even more of an issue with it. But the idea of really anytime government it starts getting into what a person or a family can do into it, I mean, there's been a whole lot of focus on this and other popular media and of course studies that have come out on the idea of, I think some of the ones that outside of this, not directly related to this issue, but related to the kind of subject area of government involvement in individuals' medical choices when it is that like children who have been receiving life-saving care, their parents or the children themselves decide not to, and then there have been, instances of states stepping in to say, no, this has to continue. You're not able to make a decision for yourself, and if the parents are opposing it, the state will step in and make you a ward of it. And I kind of see these in similar-ish, if not exactly apples-to-apples comparison type of territory of saying that, no, you're not able to make these decisions for yourself. And again, unless there is damn good reason, I find myself always a bit dubious about that level of it. So that's, if you want to be more specific about my position on it, that's a little bit more clarity, if that helps you.
Yeah, again, you really need to study the subject and look at the links I've provided you about the medical community's views, because puberty blockers and gender affirming care and hormones, it involves a lot that is not just surgery. Right-wing media misrepresents what gender-affirming care as just being surgery, which is an extremely rare thing in general for gender trans people, not just trans children. But there's the puberty blockers and transitioning socially. That's a big decision, and it doesn't involve surgery. And the hormones are a big decision. But the puberty blockers really gets to the heart of what's being denied and causing these kids with gender dysphoria who are diagnosed with gender dysphoria to kill themselves. And those are non-permanent.
Right, as I was just talking about. I mean, yeah, there are the whole section of the bills that ended up talking about surgery that sterilizes child. I mean, it's arguably the first top part of it, because, I mean, those are the ones that, catch headlines and are the major part of it. But I gotta say that, again, I don't think you're really listening to what I'm saying versus what all the other people you're referencing that I'm not referencing. I'm not quoting those people in this thing. I'm talking about just my personal views on this because, yeah, again, I mean, the major surgery, I mean, heck, if I had a kid, I'd be having an issue with him getting a tattoo, much less anything along these lines. But if there are certain, medications necessary that I may even have questions about or misgivings about, I got to say that, again, anytime we just have the government stepping in to say, no, these things are not allowed and are not going to be. And given the fact that, I mean, surgeries are the lightning rod of all of this. The idea, I mean, people bring that up all the time. The of cutting off of certain appendages, organs, units of the body, so to speak here. And the data does indicate that that is a vast minority of cases. And that's not to say that, and therefore, it's fine either. I still have a lot of issues with that. Make no mistake about it. But when it comes to this, talking about any level of, because I mean, unintended consequences are always one of my key concerns whenever it comes to sweeping legislation, as this could definitely be argued to be. And if there are going to be other things that may have those type of implications, or, I mean, I don't know of any specifically, but just see if having come up in previous times of saying, oh, yeah, you're not allowed to do this and it'll be fine. Those other cases. I mean, sure, there are the exceptions within this bill that lay it out there. But, I mean, even then, not being the complete expert on this, which I freely admit, do have some misgivings and questions. And, well, it's passed in law here in Texas. I know of people who have already been saying that they are going to leave the state because of things like this, and some who are celebrating it. The ones I find myself most agreeing with is that this has been red meat for the base for Republicans. And when it comes to actual governance things, such as say the funding provided for schools and the tax rates that were one of the major priorities that the governor put forth and yet didn't happen in deference to stuff like this, I do have some questions about priorities and the impact on the most of them when it comes to this type of issues here. So we'll continue having this discussion, I am sure, even if this is not totally how I expected this week to go, but we got to take that next break right now. So appreciate the point in the call and the discussion on it here. But let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls on the line. Got a few there already. But if you want to get on that available one, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. A 71-year-old man who was wanted for indecency with a child and sex abuse of a child has been arrested by local authorities. Robert Maldonado was arrested by El Paso County Sheriff's deputies on Tuesday. Maldonado had 2 criminal warrants for indecency with a child. He was taken into custody without incident in the 12,000 block of Golden Sun Drive in East El Paso County. Texas Governor Greg Abbott today signed into law a bill that will compensate farmers and ranchers for property damage due to border-related crimes, human smuggling, and smuggling crimes. Senate Bill 1133 was authored by State Senator Cesar Blanco of El Paso. It'll establish a grant program under the Office of the Attorney General. Agricultural landowners can be compensated up to $75,000 for property damage caused by trespassers committing a border crime. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Traffic is backed up in all directions due to a crash on Gateway West at Yarborough. All westbound lanes on Gateway West are closed. Try to avoid that intersection. Paisano Drive is slow with delays eastbound from South Santa Fe to Washington, 10-minute delays. An earlier crash on westbound Montana Avenue at Rich Beam, still partially blocking that intersection. And El Paso police responding to a crash Oregon at Kirby. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Looking ahead to our Thursday, partly cloudy skies for tomorrow. A nice start, lows back down into the 50s and 60s, but it's going to be another hot one for the afternoon tomorrow, high around 92 degrees. As we look ahead to your Friday, partly cloudy, breezy, high around 91 degrees. For your Saturday and Sunday, mostly sunny on Saturday, high around 92, with a high around 95 for your Sunday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
Okay, so we have the car payment, the rent, utilities,
and the repair bill.
What should we do?
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, we could have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org. freenormallife.org.
Is foot pain making your life miserable? The Good Feet store wants to help. We invite you to visit our store at Airway Boulevard at I-10 for a free fitting and test walk and learn more about how the Good Feet store can help you find relief. The Good Feet store.
Off clean feel, so I can accessorize with studs and not with mosquitoes. I can wear my classic white crop and flag panel jeans and know that I'm covered with 8 hours of not sticky, fragrance-free protection. Get your pre-party protection on with Off Clean Feel. SC Johnson.
This report is sponsored by Off.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either in Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Just as a programmatic note, if you're on the line, stay there until we can address you or pop you up live, because if you drop off, we can't get to you. So we do have the line open and available after that drop-off happened, 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. The irony is I was just going to answer that line there. And, to my knowledge, I haven't been charged with any crimes or anyone been talking to me about it here, so just saying get your facts straight there. But in any case, taking more calls and comments here. Not exactly the trajectory I thought we would take, particularly with the local focus we usually have. But, of course, Texas and the laws that are happening and changing are absolutely a factor of what affects us here in the borderland. But let's go ahead and get back to those phone lines now. Again, 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. We do have Ronnie on the west side here with us right now. Ronnie, thanks for joining us.
Hey, how are you?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Well, I was hearing your previous caller,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't matter what you say. If you're not going to agree with him, you're not going to see it his way, and you don't have an argument. It's just, that's what I've heard. Every time I hear this type of argument, it's the exact same thing. It's just kids should not be transitioning. Wait until they're 18, period. You want to take them, mental health, dress up, or whatever they're going to do, live as a girl or a boy, whatever, but they need to be a little older and an adult to justify them mutilating themselves. Now, if they grow up and they change and whatever they want to live their life, that's fine. It's all kosher. They can do whatever they want. But when you're a child, you cannot, and a parent shouldn't do that either, because a parent can't even give them a tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that tattoo is totally harmless compared to what these people are talking about. And then they turn around and say, oh, well, it's because of the medical profession. No, the medical profession is going along to get along. That's what they're doing. And they're doing such a disservice to the kids. They're doing horrible disservice to the children. That's just my opinion.
And I understand what you're saying there. And that's it's not really explicitly built into this or the other major bills that were passed along this way in the state of Texas anyway, though, of course, it has been coming up somewhat nationally, including what former Vice President Mike Pence was floating as part of his platform today, a federal similar type of prohibition, or, I mean, he didn't reference this bill specifically, but it sounded very much in the same line of it, that 18 line, again, age of majority in the United States, as it is for most things anyway, and just when people are considered to be legally adults, legally able to enter contracts, etc., give consent, and many other important legal phrases that come along with it. I mean, that's
exactly,
it's closer to what I would be willing to support personally as services. And that's why I'm also, because I'm just not as familiar with the individual impacts of them when it comes to the treatments, the non-surgical options. I'm a little bit more dubious on that part of it, just because of, again, potential government overreach breaking down into, personal medical decisions, et cetera, et cetera. But I will say that, just when it comes to societally, we have decided that, and that's what, I've been familiar with my entire life. Of 18, you're an adult, you make your decisions, and you live with the consequences, so to speak here. So that's why anything more than that I have an issue with.
That's the way you have to be able to draw a line to where, especially with something so extreme I mean, they're going to such an extreme and they're pushing it so hard. And then you expect people to believe that all of a sudden there's a boom of children who are thinking that they're girls and boys that are thinking they're girls. I mean, that's just, and then they're going to come out with saying, oh, well, it's because they've been hiding it. I mean, they have an excuse for everything. They have and then if you don't believe their excuses, then you don't believe in them.
I mean,
that's just the way I've seen it. I mean, and I agree with, I don't believe in a lot of federal things that they should be doing. If you're going to say, okay, this is a limit at 18, that's fine. But it's like everybody, like even I'm a conservative, but I don't believe in the federal government putting an abortion ban. I don't believe in that either, because they did the exact same thing they were supposed to do, which was give it to the states. Leave it alone. It's none of the government's business. Let the states handle it, and then let the voters handle it, whether they want to accept that or not. That's the way it works.
Okay, so your perspective on that. So, I mean,
see what I mean?
Yeah, no, and of course, this is Texas making this decision. So, I don't know if it's been one of a wave of other states doing similar type of things, particularly in recent years. So, I mean, there has been already the specter of legal challenges that have been brought up this, particularly by advocates of this and of the healthcare aspect of it. So, we'll see how those progress. Wouldn't expect them to fare too well within the state of Texas, based on the makeup of the state Supreme Court and the lower courts within the state of Texas. But I could see something like this before too long potentially ending up in the Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court, that is. So we'll see what happens in that case.
And the saddest thing that I look at is that I can't believe that there are no liberal or conservative or Democrats that can come out and they don't have. And I mean, you mean to tell me every single Democrat, every single liberal believes in this? That's the part I can't believe, that they can't come out and say, no, this is wrong. Just to stick to a side. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, the interesting part of this is it seems to have come down partisan in nature, which is having some of those implications you're talking about. Yeah.
But that's just my 2 cents. That's all I had to say.
Fair enough. Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you, you too. Bye-bye.
All right. And I think we have time for at least one more call here on the line. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, earlier you were talking about Edward James Olmos and Stand and Deliver, the movie.
Correct. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen Stand and Deliver?
You know what? I've never actually seen it, but it's like one of those, from my perspective, older movies that I've seen a lot of because of like the tropes out there. And I've seen a lot of the scenes, like the, I'm not going to recreate it, but the Finger Man scene. So I probably need to sit down and like watch the whole thing. I feel like I've seen it all in different parts over the years.
We watched it just last night.
Huh, okay.
Amazing story.
Mm-hmm.
18 kids in the barrio didn't have chance one of learning math. They ended up learning calculus, taking a test, an advanced test. 18 of them took the test. 18 of them passed the test. And then they said they were accused of of cheating because nobody could do that, especially not people, Hispanics from the barrio. And so they had to retest the test, and they all passed again with flying colors. And I was just looking at it just recently about what's being taught in the schools and methods of teaching math. About Common Core math.
It's a bit after my time being in the school system, but I know there's been a lot of discussion about it, and the number sense specifically that comes along with it, kind of related to what the movie was about, is what I think you're getting at.
No, this is the reason why we don't have children doing what they did in the barrio in this movie, is because this is called the friendly numbers. Say you want to add 2-digit numbers the old school way. Millennial parents were taught involved putting one on top of the other and carrying if necessary. Now students are encouraged to rethink how they arrange the numbers. Moldigan gives the example of 41 plus 29. What do you think that then answer is?
Right. Yeah, and the way they give the
this way you're supposed to rethink it. You're supposed to say, I can take a look at it in the 70. Because that's the way I was. This way, you're supposed to rewrite 29 as 30, which is a rounder number, friendlier number. Then you turn 41 into 40, also friendly. You've subtracted 1 from 41 and added 1 to 229, so that cancels out. And now you have your product 70. Is it any wonder that children cannot do math anymore? Simple math.
I mean,
look up. I was amazed at what we're teaching our kids about math and the concepts of math, new math versus old math. This is awesome. This is just awful.
I mean, yeah.
And no wonder kids are committing suicide because they can't function in the world anymore. If you can't do math, you can't function in the world.
I'm not saying that there weren't any people that I grew up in school to get before Common Core came to Advent. Our biggest scandal was over block scheduling in my high school years, but and the kerfuffle over that. I think there was a minor protest at my school over it. But in any case, I mean, I don't think of as much as people were dreading tests that anyone was willing to unalive themselves over that. And I mean, I will say that while I don't think that life is any easier for kids these days, I mean, there may be a lot of creature comforts that have, of course, changed, and that's what a lot of people end up focusing on. But there's a lot of changing aspects in this world. I don't think the full impact of social media has been understood, and the real impact that it has on developing brains. That's one of the reasons that, say, like, what was it, Instagram for kids had such a kerfuffle over it in the legislature, both, state and national ones, because of the idea that, oh, boy, what does that actually mean for, a developing mind to see only the best, only the most curated things, or literal war crimes are able to be seen on these platforms? And like, what does that end up meaning for kids as they are trying to develop and understand the world? So, I mean, sure, I'm not saying that I was good at math. Math and I basically decided to part ways semi-amicably about the calculus era because I was just not getting it, or at least that wasn't my brain space at that point in time. But I will say that, I mean, there are important uses, and, knowing and understanding of it is certainly an important part of having basic math skills. But I think that's one of the reasons I was bringing up mental health support previously, that frankly, I think more of it is needed in society, because as much as things have gotten easier and, it's easier to get things, there are still plenty of problems, particularly socially, that have changed radically that I still don't think have been fully comprehended. So sure, math is an easy one to point to and say, oh man, there's a math test or two that I wanted to just not exist in the world anymore for. I mean, that's very much a permanent solution to a temporary problem, so to speak. But I do think that challenges are very different these days.
Well, I believe 2 + 2 is always going to be equal to 4.
Sure.
And stay well, stay safe. God bless, and let's go, Brandon. That's all I've got.
Fair enough. Well, thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Watch the movie. It is awesome.
I'll have to send it down and do it, particularly with the announcement that he's going to be in town. Maybe I'll go see it then, that one as well, but do appreciate it.
All right. Stay well, stay safe. Bye-bye.
All right. And with that, we got to take that last break right now. Coming out of this break, till we got coming up for you, because we're going to try to squeeze in an interview for you all tomorrow. So details on that. Don't worry, we're not making the Friday any less sacred than we hold it anyway on this program. But stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this brief break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. A 71-year-old man who was wanted for indecency with a child and sex abuse of a child has been arrested by local authorities.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Gateway West at Yarborough, all westbound lanes are blocked due to a serious accident. Slow traffic on the I-10 eastbound from Trans Mountain to the Patriot. It's a 7-minute delay. Paisano Drive eastbound is slow from downtown Santa Fe over to Washington. That's a 12-minute backup. And an accident's in the clearing stage, Oregon at Kirby. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Strawberry Frosty. Hey, you! Run to Wendy's and grab a Strawberry Frosty. Don't worry about canceled plans. It's worth it, but act fast. Like your date, it's gone at the end of the summer. Head to Wendy's for a Strawberry Frosty and that sweet strawberry goodness. Limited time only at participating Wendy's.
Are you a business owner, CEO, or responsible for marketing? If you are, iHeartMedia can help you reach your goals and find new customers. We reach more consumers in your target area than anyone else, and we can give you access to those potential customers more cost-effectively across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. Get started today at iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
Car crimes are on the rise. Protect yourself and your valuables this holiday season. When you park your car, always lock it down. Never leave keys in your vehicle. Never leave your windows down. Don't leave your valuables in plain sight, or you might return to a terrible sight. Try to park in well-lit areas. And most importantly, always lock it down. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com.
Parents, are you tired of helping put your kids' shoes on? They're squirming, watching cartoons, anything but helping. Luckily, it's Skechers to the rescue. Introducing new hands-free Skechers slip-ins. Footwear you can just get your kids to step into and their shoes are on. You don't need to bend over. You don't need to sit on the floor and try to wrangle them on. Actually, you don't even have to touch them. With Skechers slip-ins, they just step in and go. Plus, they're so easy, they could be the first shoes your kids can put on by themselves. And Skechers slip-ins are great for older kids too. They're quick, easy, and fun. The secret is a unique comfort pillow in the heel that helps your child's foot slide securely into place and cradle it in comfort. Plus, they're available in all types of Skechers styles with and without laces, and most are machine washable, so you can keep them looking newer longer. Get Skechers slip-ins, the "Where have you been all my life" shoes for your kids or for mom and dad today. Find Skechers slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish shoes are sold.
For more than 45 years, the El Paso Community Foundation has worked with individuals and nonprofits to address the unique opportunities and challenges in our vibrant multicultural community. Every dollar goes to bettering our region. For more information about the foundation, establishing a fund of your own, or giving to an existing fund or project, go to epcf.org. That's epcf.org. For good, for El Paso, forever.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. A couple of notes coming up for you. Of course, Friday is right around the corner, and we've been doing the whole free-for-all Friday thing, but questions have been asked about particularly those EPISD races, and it's going to be a little non-standard, but managed to get back a hold of the remaining candidate, that being of Jacqueline Martinez. So I plan to interview her tomorrow morning, so we'll bring that interview to you tomorrow. So yes, technically we cut into a little bit of our call time, but we want to make sure we're at least doing a complete race before we get to Election Day, which is on Saturday. Don't forget, I'll be going out and voting on there. So in any case, that's the plan for that. And we got a lot more coming up for you next week, already being planned on, including talking about those ethics violations in the P card, gas card, whatever have you, things that are being investigated by city council and potentially law enforcement. Some of the things coming out. So we'll talk more about that. And just as a side note, want to wish a happy retirement to Sarah Jane Barno, my middle school speech teacher, who announced her retirement as of this school year, and arguably the reason that I'm still here arguing with y'all today. So much appreciate to her and her legacy, and congrats on the retirement. But we'll have to leave it there for today because we're out of time here for this program. I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We'll do it again tomorrow, specifically and extra special tomorrow. It's Free for All Fridays around the corner. So until then, until next time, I want you all to stay safe, look twice for motorcycles when out there on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Gateway West at Yarborough, all westbound lanes are blocked due to a serious accident. Slow traffic on the I-10 eastbound from Trans Mountain to the Patriot. It's a 7-minute delay. Paisano Drive eastbound is slow from downtown Santa Fe over to Washington. That's a 12-minute backup. And an accident's in the clearing stage, Oregon at Kirby. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
When your back pain is your foot's fault. This is Dean's story.
It was affecting me when I walked, which is a kind of a common activity.
Dean's chronic back pain had become a pain in the you-know-what.
At first, I just sort of ignored it, but eventually everything catches up to you.
Physically and mentally.
Back pain affects your mood. It really does.
But that's not the only connection Dean made.
A friend of mine suggested I go to the Good Feet store. I was a little confused. Why would I need a foot store? My feet are fine.
But he thought, what the heck? He had nothing to lose.
They took impressions of my feet, and with the footprint, they were able to get me a personalized arch support that lifted pressure off my back.
So the source of your back pain was right under your toes.
It's something maybe I should have known, but I found out in the nicest possible way.
See how arch supports work for you with a free fitting. Find your Good Feet store at goodfeet.com.
Airway Boulevard at I-10.
Portions of the following program
News
will be
on the
recorded.
hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. News media is beginning to gather outside of the federal courthouse in downtown Miami as a potential indictment of former President Trump in the investigation into classified documents found at his Florida residence looms. Trump could potentially be charged as early as Friday with illegally storing classified documents. Forecasters say the wildfire smoke blanketing the Northeast may